Oh, please. Oh, God. Now I got to be careful. Um, Good afternoon. I guess it is now, right? If we're in North Carolina, if you're not, John, it's still good morning. So, let's see some faces, ask some questions. Basically, this is not a presentation. This is a spot where we can have a conversation, where we can talk about labor rates. We can talk about diagnostic rates. We can talk about a shift in our thinking, our fundamental thinking that I think has to take place today. So please come on board. Let's have some fun. We designed this. Maddie, I asked Maddie, do you want a presentation or do you want to have a conversation? And she thought the conversation would be a lot more fun. So please come on in, have fun, and let's get in. Mike, you can't put a picture and then start using chat, dude. Is anyone connecting labor rates to inflation? You damn well better be, right? You got to be looking at inflation. In fact, an inflation calculator is an inflation calculator should be your friend. So that's awesome. You did that on purpose, Mike? I'm curious. Okay. Well, you should talk now. Yeah.
I'll talk a little bit when available, but I don't want to be that guy talking loud in the middle of Panera. I'm sorry.
In the middle of Panera? Oh, there you go. So, yeah, and well, the good news is you can't hear a lot of noise. You could have picked that up off the ground for all I know, just filled it up.
I try to get as much trash food as possible. It helps control expenses.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, is there everybody's more and more sensitive and aware of inflation right now for many reasons, right? But you combine that with the increased wage pressures. What math is everyone using to establish what your labor rate is going to be? Because it can't be I called around and I want to be, the second highest guy in town, but not the highest. That's nobody's going to win that way. So do you base it off of your loaded cost of labor? Do you base it off of your expense structure? How do you want to take somebody who's just like an unmolded piece of clay and tell them how to establish their labor rate?
Well, that's kind of like someone once asked me, how do you make $1 million in auto repair? And I said, start with 2 million, right? So it's one of those things where I think one of the mistakes we make as an industry, and I don't think I'll be taking notes. I'll take my glove off. One of the mistakes I think we make in this industry, or we're starting to make, is for years, what we've been doing is looking at our labor rate and determining what we would and could pay for labor. The labor market is such now that I think we need to flip this and look at what we're going to pay somebody and then decide what we need to charge to make that happen. And inflation's got to be part of that. I think if you start doing that, it takes care of a lot of the issues. When I coach somebody, we don't do loaded labor costs, but my percentage is higher. I want 75% gross profit on labor. That's the goal. Okay. So, and the reason for that is the other area that I think has got to step up, we got to really step up on, is we've got to start offering benefits that we haven't been offering for a long time. And I think that's really important as well. We've got to have the money to be able to do that, or we're not going to be able to attract people in here. Can I share my screen? Maddie, can you enable me for screen sharing?
Just did, should be able to go.
Literally, I want to set this up. Literally, I'm watching Good Morning America. This is an off week for me, so I don't have coaching calls this week, scheduled calls, which is kind of nice, actually. But what's happening is I was watching Good Morning America this morning with my wife, and this commercial came up. I want to share it with you. Oh, hold on a second. I got to do a new share. Try that again. I want to share my sound. You might have to turn up your sound a little bit on this. I did the video with my phone.
Packaging Corporation of America in Harrisonburg is currently hiring general laborers to fill machine helper and machine operator positions. PCA is a Fortune 500 company and one of the largest producers of containerboard and corrugated packaging products in America. We're an essential business with excellent benefits, 401k with match, and 11 paid holidays each year, with pay starting at $19.29 an hour. Must be willing to work all shifts and overtime if necessary or when required, and good attendance is rewarded. Go to careers.packagingcore.com and apply today. Packaging Corporation of America is an equal opportunity employer.
Did you guys hear that or see it? This is, you got to understand, we are in Podunk, USA here. I'm in Harrisonburg, Virginia. The biggest thing we got is a college. We got James Madison University, and that's it. I mean, we are talking, there are more cows in this area than there are people, which is actually really nice as long as the wind's blowing the right way. But it's one of those things where there's the packaging company. They got 3 locations here. They got offices and then a factory here. And basically you could be off the street and get $20 an hour. No tools, no knowledge, $20 an hour. I can literally get out of, leave my office. I can drive over to Target and I could get a job today stocking shelves at Target for $17 an hour. We have got to change the way we see things in our industry very, very quickly. We're going to be forced to. We're either going to go out of business or we're going to be forced to step up. And I think that's really important to think through.
So, you know, me, Rick, I'm prone, if nobody's talking, to try to dominate the conversation for my own benefit. And hopefully somebody else gets something from it. But if I have an average cost of labor, let's call it $40 for ease of math.
Yeah.
And I think that's a realistic number moving forward. You're saying that I need to have an effective labor rate of $160.
If is 40 loaded or unloaded?
Unloaded.
If it's unloaded, then yeah, you got to be looking at 150, $160.
So if that's your target effective labor rate, then you need to set like a mainline rate and a commodity rate and a diagnostic rate around that target.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So how do you do the math to determine what those variable rates need to be?
I think it, first of all, I think it comes down to, I think this comes down to, you know, like for me, I don't have a separate diagnostic rate. I controlled cost. I did a 2-for-1 instead of doing the separate rate. Now, is there something to think through on a diagnostic rate? So one of the things I did, if you want to do a diagnostic rate, let's talk about diagnostic rates for a minute. You know, before we start talking diagnostic rates, I think we need to talk about charging for diagnostics. And I might be cheap. I might be preaching to the choir here right now, but I'm telling you, I've been doing this for 17 years. You would be amazed at the shops that give this crap away. Or they try, and I'm going to use my Austin Power air quotes, they try, oh, I'll wrap it into the repair, which doesn't work for a couple of different reasons. Number one, you don't charge as much as you should when you wrap it into a repair because you don't want to be seen as too expensive. Second thing that happens is if someone price shops you for the repair, you're going to be more expensive than everybody else because you're wrapping in the diagnostic. They're not going to do that. So you've got to recognize there's 2 separate operations first. And then secondly, you've got to look at, you know, why do I want to charge? Number one, out of all the techs you got to use, and please get involved, guys. I don't want to be the only person talking here answering questions. I want a dialogue. But if you think about it, what, you know, which tech are you using in the shop for your diagnostics? Right?
A, B, or C. Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to use your top tech, right? If you ever want to swallow a bullet or you ever want to, ever want to feel like you want to swallow a bullet, give your diagnostic to a C-Tech. Right? That's called dispatch to strengths, because if you don't, you're just going to want to chew a bullet, I promise. So the first thing we got to do is we got our most expensive techs doing this work. And are they using just, digital voltometers and stuff like that? You guys don't have to buy scan tools and shit, do you?
Rick, and that's one of my ideas. When I do diagnosis labor, I'm also renting the tools out that I'm using to do that repair. So I have to calculate what kind of tools are we going to be using for that diagnostic level.
Now, how would it feel if I showed you an Excel sheet that actually helps you figure that all out?
I'd love you a little bit more.
And how much do you love me already, John?
Oh my God, I can't count that high. You've made me so much money, my friend. I don't know.
So the thing of this is, you actually do have to think about the tooling, don't you? Because for years we've bought the tools and absorbed the cost as a way of us being able to do the work. I don't think we can do that anymore when you're talking about subscriptions and updates and everything like that. I don't think it works. I think you've got to have a profit model for that investment in equipment. And I think we've got to think that through. Another thing is access charges. If you're paying for a manufacturer site, you're paying $2,000, $3,000 a year to get access to that line. There should be an access charge on every vehicle that you've got to use it on. And you figure that out so that should that be a break even? I don't think so. I'm not spending money if I can't make money. Right? There's got to be a profit potential to all of this in my opinion. Now, we do it transparently. We let people know. But here's the thing. If they don't want to do that, if they don't want to spend that money, go down to AutoZone. They're worth every penny. I say that all the time. AutoZone is worth every penny in diagnostics. So,
Amen.
Yeah, everybody's in business to make money, right? So I have this Excel sheet. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Let's see. How do I want to sort this? Let's say by date last opened. Okay, it's coming. All right, it's coming. There it is. All right. So I'm going to open this up so you can see it in just a moment, but I want to ask some more questions. What else does diagnostics do we have to deal with? What happens when you're doing a diagnostic? Where's the gross profit going to come from? Don't overthink this. This is a really simple answer.
It's got to come from the labor.
Chad, thank you. It's got to come from the labor. Amen, right? But if I'm doing a brake job, where's gross profit come from?
Parts and labor.
Parts and labor, right? So we lose our parts gross profit. We've got to calculate that in as well, because we need an overall target of gross profit. One of the biggest mistakes we make is looking at gross profit as a percentage. Now that works when we're looking at P&Ls and such like that, because it's a conglomeration of invoices. But when we're looking at an invoice, what I train clients to look at is gross profit per actual hour, and it's a dollar number. Okay. And we calculate what that needs to be, and then they can use that as a goal when the advisor's writing the ticket to see whether they're profitable or not. It really works out well. Now, there is also gross profit per billed hour that's not as effective as gross profit per actual hour. There's more levers to pull when you're looking at it from an actual hour perspective versus billed hour. But now let's take a look at this. Oh, and by the way, when you have a really great tech and you're not charging for diagnostics, what are you telling that tech your opinion is of his abilities?
you're making him feel unappreciated. There's no way that he can, he's going to want to spend the time or the energy training and improving himself.
Absolutely, Chad. And I hope you guys are going to smell what I'm stepping in here, right? I got a friend of mine from North Carolina says that all the time, right? So with this situation, which out of all the work you do, what has the highest probability of comeback? Your diagnostic and testing. You need to get paid for it, right? And I'm going to tell you, you guys, how many of you have got technicians that are Identifix diagnosticians? They'll basically go to Identifix, see what the pattern failures are, and then spend 3 hours trying to prove that the pattern failure is wrong, at the problem. And I'm going to tell you that's an indicator that we're not charging properly for diagnostics. Right? If I'm not going to get paid for diagnostics, yeah, I'm not going to get it done. I'm not going to do it for you. I just not. I'm going to go over here, see what it is, and that's it. Now, let me share this with you. So this is a labor rate, labor-only labor rate calculator. And what's this? This is designed to do is you put a cost of equipment in. Let's just put some fake numbers up here, right? So what would you say, diagnostic equipment, someone give me a number that you spent on your scan tool stuff with updates with updates per year?
8K,
8K. And what's the updates a year?
1,000, 1,200.
$1,000. Okay. So let's
Yep.
call it, let's say $1,000. That's fine. How many years is that scan tool going to be good for? 3 years, 5 years? Can't hear you, John.
Yeah, about 5 years tops.
Okay, so let's say 5 years. So that would be $13,000 then, right? 8,000 for the scan tool and then 5,000 in updates. Sound right?
Yep.
So that's $13,000. It's going to be available. It's going to be 5 years. Number of times, how many times a month would you use the piece of equipment? Roughly.
Day 30.
What are you thinking?
25, 30.
Okay, give me one. You want to do 25 or 30?
30.
Okay, 30. Okay, 30 times a month is going to be 360 times a year. Yes. So now, based on that, you should be charging $7.22, and that's just to cover the cost. Now, how much profit? What's your profit factor on it? You want to double your money? You want 100% profit? And you want to, in other words, do you want to mark it up so that you're making 100% on it? Right? So
Or
we
more.
put or more. So now it's at $14.44 just for the equipment. Okay.
All right.
So now let's say we have a shop with a labor rate of $110 and their labor sales we're just going to use round numbers, 50,000. Part sales were 50,000. And their parts cost was 22,000.
Weekly or monthly?
It doesn't matter. Usually the bigger the number, the bigger the period of time, the more accurate the number will be.
Okay.
Okay. So I would run this for probably a quarter or half a year. Okay.
Right.
So based on a shop that's got $110 labor rate, based on these things here, their diagnostic rate should be $186.04. That makes up for that's the tooling and the parts gross profit loss.
That's cool, Rick. I've never seen that before. That's cool.
Well, that's what you get when you love Excel. I love Excel.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your thoughts on this? When you see this, what are your thoughts on this? I see smoke coming out of multiple heads right now.
I'm going back to the shop, see if I can't do this shit right.
Thoughts, comments, what?
Uh,
You're muted, Mike.
I was trying to zoom in and look at the spreadsheet on my phone screen. So old man eyes don't work well with that. I'm sure
No.
that you're going to be that guy who's willing to share that with everyone so that we can slice it and dice it ourselves. Right?
Oh yeah, you want to screen capture this? Go ahead. No, I'm kidding. If you guys want this, just email me.
Is this something in your owner's class that you produce?
This is something we do in our coaching.
Okay.
So, but this is something that I think needs to be discussed. Now, for me, instead of having that higher labor rate, I use a thought process of containing cost. You know, and I use examples. We have a really great webinar. If you're a part of our PBG series, we actually have a webinar called Selling Testing Profitably. And what I did in that webinar is I talked about two different examples. Remember when gas was like $5 a gallon? General Mills, what they did was they used the same size cereal box, but took 2 ounces or 3 ounces of cereal out of it. They didn't charge you any more for the cereal, but they controlled their costs to cover the extra shipping cost. Does that make sense? Now,
So only 3 quarts of oil with the oil change then, regardless of capacity.
I don't think it's, I think we're apples and oranges here, Mike. I don't know. So for me, I always did, I controlled my cost. Another example of this is Dairy Queen. See, when I first moved down to Virginia, there's a Dairy Queen on every corner. I was in pig heaven, right? And I would get a twist cone and it would be about this big, right? A chocolate and vanilla twist cone, large. You don't get anything small. You always get a large, right? Now today, it's about this big. It's still about the same price, but it's about this big now. Right? So what they're doing is they're still maintaining margins, but they're maintaining it by controlling costs. And that's what I suggest we do. So one of the things I recommend is give your tech half the time. In other words, number one, don't sell it as a labor rate. Don't sell it as an hour. You have a level 1, level 2, level 3 testing, right? And you sell it in levels. Level 1 testing, my guys got an hour and we charge 2. Now, some shop owners hear that and they start sucking their thumb and crawl into the corner and roll up in a ball, and it scares them. So what if you went to 1.5 hours and 45 minutes for your techs?
I do 15 and pay 30 hour and a half. Got 15 minutes, come tell me something. And it's charged an hour and a half.
Whatever works. I mean, ultimately, one of the things I want to get across is with diagnostics, we've got to get out of the mindset that we're selling time. We're selling expertise and experience.
And knowledge and professionalism. Yes, you're right.
I had an advisor one time I was coaching in Missouri, and she said to me, I looked at a job and it was like 15 minutes she charged. And I said, what are you charging 15 minutes for? And she goes, that's all it took them. I said, no, ma'am. I said, it took them 30 years to figure out how to do it in 15 minutes. You're charging for the 30 years. That's what we've got to be aware of.
So that makes me think with the calculator you just shared, showing a diagnostic rate of 180 something, that seems reasonable, right?
Yeah.
But if you're going to pay an hour to the technician for his time and we're going to charge for 2, that means that we're going to start with a drivability diagnosis at $370 for the testing and evaluations.
Well, well, I wouldn't do both. I wouldn't
so that's
charge
either or.
I wouldn't charge the diagnostic rate and then do 2 for 1.
Okay, good. That was the root of my question, because I feel like I'm going to start to get some pushback from service advisors and customers if I try to do that.
But here's the thing. I have a client out in Washington State. Everybody signs an authorization for 320 when they start any kind of testing.
I started that this week, Rick.
You know
320.
something? I'm going to tell you this, and it's going to be a hard pill to swallow, but it really is all about confidence. Your confidence, your level of confidence and certainty, if you just come in and you say it, look, I'm going to give you a real, we started using copywriters, right? We hired a copywriter and they're helping us with some of our marketing. And she basically laid out this thing and, you know, it's a whole sequence. We're going to do this, and it's going to, emails are going to start doing this, and then they're going to do this, and then they're going to do that. And like, I mean, it was just overwhelming the way she mapped it out. And then she says, and I was listening to my wife she was watching the video. I was listening. And she said, yep, we're going to do this. And it's 25 grand and we'll take care of it. And I went, holy crap, we need to hire her as an advisor. And my wife said, why? And I said, because she made $25,000 sound like it was no big deal. Right? So we've got to have that confidence level. That's the biggest part of it. We've got to stop worrying about the guy down the street. When it comes to our labor rates and being able to attract top talent, we got to stop worrying about the guy down the street. I promise you, there's always going to be somebody that's going to appreciate what you do. And I would rather work with fewer people that appreciate what I do than trying to keep my prices low and attracting more people that just don't get it.
Amen, Rick. Amen.
So for me, what we did, I'll tell you, my labor rate at the time was $79. So our level 1 testing was $160. And this is back in 2001, when the going labor rate in my area was $50, $55. We were more expensive than the dealer for our labor rate. But we were also the same shop that we were known as the shop that could fix something that nobody else could. So you should have a diagnostic, I'm not going to say a diagnostic labor rate. You need to have a diagnostic strategy. One that helps you maintain your profit and do it in a way that makes sense. Now, by keeping the actual costs down, you get less pushback from the higher rate with your advisors on the front counter. I have a shop in Texas right now I'm working with, and his biggest issue is his advisors keep knocking the rate down to their base labor rate for the diagnostics. They don't charge the diagnostic rate.
They just don't see the value of it. What
Here's
is their
the thing.
reasoning?
The reasoning is I have a hard time selling this to the customer. You got to understand that people only see things from their perspective, not yours. Right? How does this affect me? What does this do to me? So we've got to help them understand what's going on and how it impacts everybody. But ultimately, we've got to get to a point where we're clear on what we're doing. And I can almost guarantee you that those advisors at one point or another have seen the owner do the same thing. Right? We have that little bit of, oh, he's a friend, I'll do this, or he's this and I'll do that. I would rather see you charge the diagnostic rate and not the time down a little bit than to put it down to the lower rate. Because you got to remember, everybody's watching us, man, and they can't hear what you're saying over the noise of what you're doing. Right? They're going to listen, but people are watching a lot more than listening. Yes, sir, John.
I got to go into my appointment. It was great. I really enjoyed it, Rick. I'll catch up with you.
All right, man. Take care. So, again, as far as factoring these things in, you can look at your diagnostic rate as being a little higher. I also think you should have a higher rate for bigger work, truck work. If you have to, how many of your trucks come in and they got the bigger tires or they're raised up a little bit, right? All the time. And I don't know about you, but this old body gets tired of going up and down that step on the tire all the time. right? When I was at the Chevy dealer, we used to just let the air out of the front tires, work on the vehicle, and then put the air back in. But it should be a higher rate, in my opinion. If you're doing diesel work, that should be at a higher rate. If you're doing European stuff, it should be at a higher rate. If you're doing engine or transmission work, major repairs, it should be at a higher rate. But ultimately, it depends. I look at it from a warranty perspective. I look at it from a profit perspective. But the end goal is to get that 70, I like to see 72 to 75% GP on labor. And that's gross wages, not loaded. If you load it, it's going to be less. The profit percentage would drop. Now, can you have a maintenance rate that's a little bit lower? Sure you can. We do that all the time now, don't we? Do you guys get your base labor rate for oil service? Right? It's just me and Chad and then everybody else's name. We're in trouble here, Chad.
I'm driving, so I have to have all that stuff off so I can maintain signal. But I think it's overcoming the discounted labor rate items for the commodity items, the oil changes, the tire rotations, the free flat repairs if you bought the tires from us. Getting my effective labor rate where it needs to be to provide the margin on top of those things is the struggle for me.
But here's the thing, Mike, maybe we have to adjust the effective labor rate. I have a European shop I'm working with in Pennsylvania, and his effective labor rate was running 82%. And he was shooting for the 92, 93% effective labor rate. And he was just blowing his brains out trying to get it done. And what we did was we looked at it, and he was doing a courtesy evaluation on the vehicle, and he was crediting his tech a half hour for doing the job.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we back the evaluations out, his effective labor rate was spot on.
Yeah, but that's cheating because he's paying the technicians for the time, so that's one of his cost loads.
It is one of his cost loads. Right? It is one of his cost loads. But what he did was his labor rates where it should be and everything like that. He's paying his guys the way he should. He said, okay, I'm going to go after an 82%. My goal is going to be 82% effective labor rate. Or you got to step up and say, okay, I'm giving this stuff away. I'm actually going to add it in, and my labor rate's going to be this much higher. And I'm okay either way. I went to this shop owner. He said, I'm not going up any higher on my labor. And I said, okay, well, then let's figure out what the number is for your effective labor rate that makes sense so you can manage it and get what you want. And he did that. He was very happy. He's maintaining it. If he sees it drop, he's back up. But if you're of the mindset, I need my 90% effective labor rate, then you've got to look at all that stuff and say, okay, here it is. Here's what the labor rate's got to be. I'm cool either way. I personally am tired of our industry subsidizing auto repair for our clients. We have for years. We should get paid for what we do. We should get paid fairly. We shouldn't do anything illegal, immoral, or unethical, but we get paid for what we do. Why does a plumber who's walking in carrying his tools get more per hour than we do? Their liability is less. I mean, the worst thing that happens is you get a leak, but they're charging more.
No, it's because of the severity of the pain when the consumer needs them. A leak doesn't sound very bad, but a leak is really bad if it's the right leak. If the AC doesn't work, that's a big problem. So it's because of the severity of the pain point for the consumer when that service is needed and the urgency of the service.
Absolutely. And the less competition you have, right? If I'm the only European shop for 40 miles, guess what I can charge?
Whatever the hell you want.
anything I want, right? The biggest problem I think in our industry is we have people that go out and start shops all the time. And how do they start the shop? What's their differentiator? I'm going to do it cheaper than everybody else. They do that for 3 or 4 years, get all the bottom feeders, blow their brains out because they're going absolutely nuts and not making any money, right? I was just in another online meeting, and it was with different business owners, and we were talking about how to get, how do you get referrals, ask for referrals. And, someone said, who's your ideal client? And I said, it's the shop owner that has family at home, but the only way he knows who his kids are is by the time, it's by his wife sending him pictures of the kids. Right? That's my ideal client. That's my ideal prospect, is the guy that's at the shop all the time, or the guy that's always worried about money. Doesn't have that cushion built into his checking account, doesn't have, the scheduling set up right, et cetera. That's my ideal client. So one of the things I truly believe as an industry we need to start doing is number one, knowing who our ideal clients are and how we uniquely solve their issues. Because the reality is, Mike said it right up front, right? It's based on the severity of their need, right? So if I got somebody that's broken down, are they more likely to get their car fixed than the guy that's just in there for an oil service? Got a bunch of lurkers in here tonight, Maddie. I don't know today. I don't know. Come on, let's come in. Let's have some fun. Hey, Grant.
Okay, Rick, I'll give you a little twist on this. I hear these all the time. I'm 23 years ago, I sold the shop and doing other stuff. I had a Honda shop I started pretty much the first thing I did out of school. Honda shop. I mean, Honda only. I'm talking about not this Honda. So I went to Honda dealer, decided this is my call. So yeah, I did it for 20 years, a 20-year mark. I was sold the top 2 employees. I wanted to somebody made me an offer on the property that couldn't refuse. I went to my guy, said, I can move this to another shop. You can buy the business. And my point is, we did Hondas, and that shop now is 43 years old. It's moved twice. It's on a final resting place, which has been there 15 years, is 3 acres of land, 10,000 square foot, 18 bay, fully air conditioned, Honda only shop.
Yeah.
And I'm in there the day before they opened that new location, they called me over and give me keys to the place. Kind of a cool thing. So I go in there and have a run of the place. But and as being a one brand deeply immersed in that, 80% of the stuff we're talking about goes away. I mean, I have one subscription to information, one set of specialty tools. We see the things that are pattern failures that most of us didn't even see. We recognize a pattern failure. We got a tech over there. One of my prior students just doing, circuit board repair, because the same problem over and over, and he gets the magnifying glass out. He finds what transistor. And so now they're building, certain modules. But you'll see a lot of guys, they specialize in something on the front. You pull in, there's Chevys and Fords and the Audis, and they're not. Because so it takes nerves of steel to hold down the gauntlet. Because when I started my business, I decided about 2 months, worked at a Honda dealer for a year and a half, and I left. I decided, just as quick as I can, I'm going pure Honda. That 2 months in, I wouldn't. I don't care if we're called up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon and even a Nissan or a Toyota. I wouldn't do it, because people have confidence. All across the city of Greensboro say, well, where to take my Honda? There's the Honda guy. There's one Honda guy, and then there's everybody else. Yeah. They're slammed. They are slammed. They don't have advertised. A lot of things that your general repair shop has to manage and do just goes away. They don't need to go to access training, because they're in this immersed in Hondas all day long. And then they have access to the Honda training through the subscription model, the Honda tooling, So it's not for everybody. You know, you can't be in a small town, but Greens, you know, it's really worked well. And I see that all the time out, you know, they slammed. They're going every day from sun up to sunrise, and everybody, and the same people. I think their average tenure there, I was adding up, is about 25 years of all the employees. Nobody leaves. They retire because, you know, it's very profitable for the techs, the owners, you know, just a lot of stuff we talk about kind of goes away. You know, it's not for everybody, but just thought I'd throw it out there. It's a different world.
I mean, absolutely. And there's three things right off the bat I can think of. When you specialize, it makes a big difference, right? First thing is less tooling, right? Very specific tooling. Second is, because I'm differentiating, it's the difference between the general practitioner, the family doctor, and the heart surgeon. Heart surgeon's going to get more money. No doubt about it. Heart surgeon's going to get more money. So you get to charge more. And the other thing that really happens, and I've worked with some European shops and such like this, is efficiencies go up. So in a shop where you're fighting for, you know, 80%, you know, you got a guy working 8 hours and you're getting 4 or 5 out of him a day. In a specialty store, it's not unusual in an 8-hour day to have a tech bill 14 to 16 hours. Because they're so used to that one kind of vehicle, they do understand the pattern failures. They know all the shortcuts, and it makes a huge difference, but it depends upon where you're at. Right? Like if someone said to me, I want to specialize in Toyota Prius, and, you know, and I'm in Harrisonburg, Virginia, you're in trouble. There's probably 4 of them. You're not going to make enough money doing the Priuses, you know? But, you know, if I said, hey, I'm going to do GMs only, or I'm going to do this, it can work, but it does, as Grant said, it takes some backbone.
One little twist too, I thought, is customer loyalty is out the roof. I was over the other day, and there's a lady, I recognized her. She was in the first year of business. She's one of my customers. She's driven through 5 Hondas. She called me by name when I walked up. And so they have customers that have been 4 or 5 generations of Hondas, their kids. We've had cars towed in from a Boone up the Appalachian, which is, you know, $200 tow back to Greensboro because they want us to fix the car. Because every time I go over there, every time I see somebody that's been a customer for like 25, 30 years, they buy a Honda. I tell you this is how cool it was. Had a customer brought us Honda in years ago and doing oil change. He says, you know, I'm thinking about getting me a Volkswagen. I said, well, that's fine, you know, but I'm not going to work on it. He said, oh yeah, you will. I said, no, I won't. I'll just do Hondas. I don't do Volkswagens. Sure enough, he goes and buys a brand new Volkswagen. Comes flying in from oil change. He walks in and gives him a key. He said, I bought that Volkswagen. So I told him, I said, well, I'm not going to work on it. He says, you're kidding. I said, I'm not kidding you. I told you. I don't know what else to say. I told you I'm going to do Hondas. So he takes this new Volkswagen, takes a beat and trades it in and gets a Honda, goes back. And I'm sure he a couple $1,000, you know, you don't buy a brand new car and flip it and buy another car. But if you stand your ground, it's like, there's something that's rare about that. You know, a lot of people will say they specialize in something, and here's a guy that's willing to trade cars, get back in. And so, you know, a lot of people keep buying Hondas over and over and over because, you know, they know we can take care of them. So it's pretty cool.
Absolutely. And I mean, Dwayne, I'm going to share just a little piece of what you just shared with me. Dwayne basically said he's got clients that won't buy anything he doesn't work on.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, that's amazing. And that's what you want. And, you know, it's cool. I sold the shop in 2002, and my dad, believe it or not, my dad's going to be 82. He still works a couple hours a day at the shop. He, you know, takes the cars out and empties the trash and stuff like that. My manager bought it from me. But it's funny. There are still people that come there and ask about me all the time. Right. And again, we still specialize. We specialized multiple makes, but we specialized in the drivability part of it. That was our big thing. So, you know, I truly believe that you guys have got to start. I think the biggest message that I could convey today is you guys have got to start thinking about, who do I need in the shop? Right. That's the first thing. And then what is it going to cost me? And then what do I need to charge? And that doesn't necessarily mean 1 for 1. If I've got a guy that can build, you know, 12 hours a day on an 8-hour day, I need to charge more, but I don't have to double my rate. And I could still pay the guy, you know, $100,000, $125,000, $150,000 if I needed to. As long as I have a path to profit, That's fine. But I'm telling you, you're going to start seeing over the next 4 or 5 years, we are going to go absolutely nuts on labor rates for two different reasons. Number one, I think you're going to see our industry transition from making money on parts. We're going to start charging like the construction industry, which is basically cost or 10 over on parts. And all the gross profit's going to be in the labor, which is fine. I don't care where I don't care where the gross profit comes from as long as you're making it. So I think that's going to have a big effect on it. And the reality is, as the shortage continues, right, we've gone from an ocean of opportunity for help down to a puddle, and it ain't big. So you've got to realize. Then the second thing I want to talk about real quick is the fact that we got to stop chasing unicorns. That A-Tech with all the diagnostic drivability and stuff, it's not that he's not out there, but he's already working somewhere else and he's being taken care of. So you've got to have a really sweet deal in order to get them on board. And it's going to be more than just compensation, right? I call it CBCR. It's going to be compensation, benefits, conditions, and reputation. Those are the 4 levers you're going to be able to pull on to get great talent into your shop. But the first thing you got to figure out is, how are you compelling? What makes you compelling? It's kind of like fishing, man. You got to know the fish you're going after. You got to know where they are, and you got to know the bait they like. That's really what it comes down to. We can make it harder if you want, but that's really as simple as it gets. What kind of benefits? I have clients now that are starting to up the benefits. I have one client I just worked with. She just last month started paying health insurance for everybody, for the employee and their families. Okay. So we've got to stop chasing unicorns. In my opinion, we got to start growing them. And we've just got to recognize that this is going to be a requirement. We can't wait. This is one of those somebody, nobody, everybody things, right? Where everybody was waiting for somebody to do it, but nobody did. We've been talking as an industry for years that we've got to improve the tech pool, the tech shortage. But I think we're figuring out at this point, it's not going to be the industry that does this. It's going to be the shop. It's going to be the shop that does this, where you're going to create and grow your own technicians. The issue that I want to bring up is you can't be starting them off at 10, 12, 14 bucks an hour. You need to have them at 20, 25 bucks an hour, and you got to figure it out. Because I got the packaging company. That's why I went back for a half hour in Good Morning America to find that ad so I could record it for today. Because I think it's that important. We are so out of the touch of reality as far as what we are willing to pay people. Here's the other thing I'm going to give you. You should be providing the tools. You shouldn't be requiring them to provide tools anymore. You should be. Now, I listen to people go, oh my God, you're kidding me. No way, no way. Think about this for a second. Think about this. You provide the tools. Where else do they go to work? The only other place they can go to work is going to be another place that provides tools. Or they're going to have to spend a lot of money to get up. Does that make sense? I see head shaking.
So if we have a facility that's clean and well lit and well equipped, has air conditioning, we have matching toolboxes that are all equipped with the necessary tooling and specialty tools and diagnostic equipment, and we provide 100% health insurance for the employee and the family.
Mm-hmm.
All those things are benefits, right? And so you created the atmosphere, you've created the benefits. It's up to us to manage the reputation. Let's assume that that's been managed appropriately. You probably don't have to pay as much at that point, right? It's such a good deal otherwise. Or do you think that got to be all of those things?
I don't think Kareem, thank you so much for being here. I will get you the spreadsheet. I still think we have to be competitive, but I've never thought you have to be at the very top. You've got to look at this as a package, but part of this is we're looking to attract people, but please write this down. You got to understand why they want to leave. What are they running from? Okay. Because if they're happy, this is just like a client, right? If someone's price shopping, you all think it's a price issue, and it's not. It's a value issue. It's a trust issue. And if you could understand that it's a trust issue, it changes the entire dynamic. Okay. So if you go and you say, hey, if you don't mind me asking, why didn't you have the other shop do the work? And they'll tell you it's price, but if you listen to them, man, it was just like really expensive. I just really thought that this was way, I don't know. You're going to say real quick, hey, I hear you saying it's all about price, but it almost sounds like you're doubting the entire interaction. It almost sounds like you want a second opinion. Would you agree? And you'd be amazed at how well that works. But it's the same thing when you're going after talent. You got to understand, what are they getting away from? Because if they were completely happy and appreciated and compensated fairly and everything else, they wouldn't be leaving. I truly believe that in my heart of hearts. If they are getting compensated fairly, and this is one of the reasons why I'm telling clients now, you can't give incremental raises. You got to give replacement raises. What does that mean? If I'm paying a guy $16 an hour and I want to give him a raise, and I'm thinking $2 an hour, you got to sit back and say, how much would it cost me to replace this guy today? If it's going to cost me $25 to replace him, I'm giving him a $9 an hour raise. Chad, did I say something? Your camera came on all of a sudden. I was like, holy crap. Did I go like, oh man.
No, I had to step away for just a second.
Yeah. I was like, I didn't know if I had to duck or something. So, it's just one of those things. We've got to step back up. We got to step up as an industry. It's time. We can't run it like we've been doing it. We can't run it like our dads did. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I came from my dad. My dad owned a shop back in the 60s and 70s. He got out in the 90s, early 90s. But he started his shop in 1968. That's where I grew up, and that's where I learned. Right? I come from the generation of compliance. You didn't ask my father why you had to do something. He said jump, you asked how high. Today, we don't do that. We have to go for commitment today. Right? We got to understand, we got to spend 95% of our time talking about why. Then we talk about what, when, and where, how. But the why starts first. So this is a much bigger issue. Labor rates, you got to figure out, here's what I'm going to tell you. You got to figure out what you're going to pay. You're going to figure out what kind of hours they can produce. And then you're going to look at that and say, I need 75%. Now, can I play with the labor rates? Yes, you can if you want to. I think you should have some different labor rates based on, as I said earlier, type of work and such. And then from there, you can look at it and say, okay, I think I should have a lower maintenance rate. Fine. If that's what you want to do, show me how you get to 75%. As a coach, that's all I care about. Show me how you're going to get to your gross profit. Show me the path. Hey, 30% is maintenance. I'm going to do it at that. We do 25% in big repairs. I'm going to do it at this rate. And here's my base rate. And between that, I'm going to get to my 75%. And I'm going to say, God bless you, go. I have another shop that says, screw that. I don't believe in lower maintenance labor rates. Show me how you're going to get to 75%. I love you. Let's go. I think everybody's different. Everybody's profit needs are different. Everybody's labor costs are different. Everybody's demographics are different. Someone says to me, what should you get, for gross profit? And as a rule, I'm going to tell you 65% gross profit is the goal. But if I had one client that was the demographics in his area. The median income was $25,000 a year. And when I started talking to him, I said, holy crap, what did you open a shop up there for? Those people can't afford. I said, anybody that's driving a car stole it. Right? 25 grand a year, you can't afford bus fare. So I just, you got to step back and look at it, but his profit target could be lower. He could work on a 55% gross profit, 50% gross profit, and his expenses were so low, he was still doing really well on the net side. So everybody's profit perspective is different. Does that make sense? Thoughts, comments, questions? I know we're almost at I can't believe we're almost at the time where we're done here, but has this helped?
Yeah, I got great value, Rick. I appreciate you coming on and sharing the interaction with Mike and Grant there, and hearing it not alone and how we think and proceed and value ourselves. That's an important part of our confidence. I like one of the other comments from prior, which is selling is something we do for you, not to you.
Amen. Amen. We're all about helping and serving. That's the way I build my business. And that's the way I think auto repair should be. We help and serve. That's what we're there to do. Here's my profit model. It's all baked into my system. And now it's all about just loving all my clients, right? It's just about taking such great care of my clients that they wouldn't want to go anywhere else. But we've got to remember the business that we're in. We think it's in auto repair, it's fixing cars. And I really want to just shake that out of everybody. Our business, the purpose of our business is to create and keep a client. And the purpose of that's the purpose of our business. And the goal of the business is profit, right? Cash is the oxygen to your business. You don't have profit, you don't have cash, you're in trouble. I don't care how good you are at fixing cars. We just use fixing cars as the vehicle, pun intended, to creating and keeping those relationships. That's what it's there about.
I agree.
So I hope that's helped. I mean, we had a lot of lurkers today.
It helped.
It helped. There's Michael. There we go. All right. Maddie, I hope this has helped. I know this is probably a little bit, I hope this was better than just a talking head with a PowerPoint presentation, right? I don't know about you guys, but I am just about PowerPointed to death. So I hope this was a little bit more engaging. And I'm looking forward to seeing y'all out at ASTE. I don't know about you. I don't know if I'm doing 3 classes or 4 classes yet, but I'm out there. So I hope you introduce yourself. We can sit down, talk anytime you want, and rock and roll. But thank God we're getting together alive again. I don't know about you guys.
We are looking forward to it. Rick has, I believe, Rick, you have a class at every time available to take a class. I think you were offering a class.
Trisha said 3 or 4, and I said, whatever you need, I'll be there. So absolutely, we're there to help and serve. So
we're looking forward to it.
And I don't know about you guys, but I miss the omelets. I love the omelets at that hotel. I'm just telling you, the omelet station's one of my highlights every morning. So I'm looking forward to it. Little Swiss cheese, tomato, and jalapeno in there, and mushrooms. I'll tell you what, that's just a little bit of heaven right there. So listen, everybody, thank you so much. It's right at top of the hour. Maddie, you can wrap it up, but I want to thank everybody for being here. I hope this has helped. If you'd like to reach out, Rick at 180biz.com. I'll get you that spreadsheet. Maddie, can you send me the chat? People were dropping their emails in there, and I'll get them that form.
Okay, I'll download it and send it to you later.
Appreciate it. All right.
Thank you.
Very
everyone.
welcome. Anything I can do to help you, let me know. Take care.